Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here and I'm back again with a brand new video. So before I begin, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Also make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. With that being said, this is kind of the promised video, and today we're going to be reviewing the camera system and the camera on the 2024 Moto G Stylus 5G. We have kind of quite a bit to talk about, so let's go ahead and jump straight to it. And I want to touch a little bit on the camera design itself. So with the new material of choice that Motorola decided to go with, which is this vegan leather material that wraps all around the back of the phone, and it sits really nicely on the camera system itself. There's this kind of indentation to kind of, you can think of it as like a camera hump, and also the camera system itself have these like two rings around them, as well as this kind of wide LED flash that they have. But as far as your camera specs themselves, instead of a gimmicky triple camera setup, Motorola decided to keep it simple, which is something that I like. You get a dual camera setup with your main sensor being a 50 megapixel sensor at f1.8 aperture, and you can see that it does support optical image stabilization. They made sure to write that on the camera in the back, so that way you know. And you also have a support for a 13 megapixel ultra wide at 120-degree field of view, and it also has this kind of macro vision, which is also part of that main sensor and the wide angle sensor. So instead of a triple camera setup with a separate camera that does this kind of macro or a zoom lens, they have it integrated within the dual camera setup. And the camera app itself and the way you launch the camera, it's just a classic Motorola flick the wrist and that'll be that. So basically the camera interface is also simplistic, straight to the point, very fluid, very fast. I haven't really had any issues switching between different modes like the photo, video mode, slow motion, portrait, time lapse, or anything like that. Even going in between the cameras, between the main sensor and the wide angle, seemed fluid and really didn't lag as much as other phones at a kind of a similar price point. So thumbs up for Motorola for doing that. So overall, nothing short of really good camera interface over here. Well, I'm going to discuss a little bit about the different modes later on in the video when we discuss actually the video capability of this phone, because it does have quite a few modes. Like I said, we'll discuss those later on. But for now, let's go ahead and flip the picture and talk about image quality. And the 2024 Moto G Stylus 5G did exceed my expectation as far as image quality and even video quality, which we will definitely discuss later on. But basically, the pictures that come out of this phone in a really good broad daylight conditions are really impressive. So colors are good on here. They are slightly saturated. The focusing on this phone is really quick and for the most part reliable, so I didn't really have any issues with that. The pictures that come out of this phone are also sharp. They're really good. In some scenarios I did notice slight overexposure when it came to kind of bokeh shots, but nothing too crazy. Like I said, it still is a respectable image. And I even tried to kind of push this phone as far as the focus capability, so subjects that are really hard to get focus on and even expensive devices, this phone seemed to do a pretty good job. It's not perfect, but it did a good job. And overall, as far as the balance of colors, the colors are not accurate, but they are slightly saturated and really vibrant, which is something, again, I like, so I didn't really have a problem with that. And overall, for a kind of mid-range budget device, it took some really respectable images. Back to this whole detail thing, this phone was very detailed thanks to that 50 megapixel sensor. So I didn't really have issues with that, and I don't think a lot of people would have or complain about the image quality that comes out of this phone. So if you really want to, you can get some really respectable pictures. Now, the difference in the main sensor and the wide angle sensor is really apparent. So for example, take this picture. Basically, the main sensor does a pretty good job in giving us a, for the most part, decent quality picture. But once you flip the mode and go to the wide angle, you'll see that the image quality just takes a fat hit. It's a nice mode to have. It's a higher resolution than the previous generation, but still, it's not as good as the main sensor, so keep that in mind. And indoor photography with artificial light, while it's not as good as broad daylight or natural light, it still did keep its own in making image quality as respectable as it could with what it works with, as far as like the lighting conditions that it has, right? There is quite a bit of noise when you take indoor photography, even with this artificial light, so it's not really dark, but there is still noise here and there. The dynamic range on here is super aggressive. I'm not the biggest fan. The sky looks really good. It still is the dynamic range on here is really aggressive. That's the bottom line. If you want to take pictures of buildings and anything that has a lot of detail in it, you will not be disappointed with this device itself in general. And once you start moving to kind of lower light conditions, as expected, this phone will take a hit. So it's not going to be as sharp. It still manages to kind of take decent pictures, but when you go from low light to really low light, and I mean like darker conditions, then you'll kind of be able to tell the noise. The picture does take a hit, basically, bottom line. Overall though, it still does its best to give you somewhat of a usable picture. The wide angle and low light, by the way, is just forget about it. Don't even think to use it or try to get some usable pictures out of it. But the selfie camera does give us a 32 megapixel f2.4 aperture selfie camera that's okay. It's better than the previous generation. It's not perfect by any means though. Switching the topic of conversation, I want to discuss the video quality, which this phone has a couple of modes. So you do have 4K recording at 30 frames per second. You can also shoot 1080p at 30-60 frames per second. If you want slow motion, you also have that ability, full HD at 120 frames per second or standard HD at 240 frames per second. Take a look at the video quality and I'll come back to you guys with some final words. Hey, what's up guys, TechTime here, and this is a quick video test of the 2024 Moto G Stylus 5G. So it does have electronic image stabilization when you're shooting video, which helps, obviously stabilize your video, make it less shaky, and give you just better video results. And luckily, this time around, you tween your standard lens to the wide angle lens while shooting video, which is really good. And you can obviously see also a difference in quality. So this is the wide angle, and when we click on the main sensor, much better quality. So the video on this phone seems to be really good. So focusing is also pretty decent. It's actually kind of fast. Yeah. Actually, yeah, it's really good. Nice. So as you guys saw and heard the audio, this phone, as far as video capability, is a very capable phone in that department as well. So the autofocus system on the video camera works really well, which is something that I really like. And I feel like if you want to use it for like YouTube or you want to use it for social media, you shouldn't have a problem with it. So I don't really have anything bad to say about it in that regard. The microphone is not that good though, I'll tell you that. But basically, bottom line is this. When it comes to this phone MSRP is $399.99 unlocked, which is a kind of a Pixel rival at that price point. However, you do get 256 gigabyte of storage. I'm not trying to compare it to the Pixel or honestly any phone other than the predecessor of this device, which is the 2023 Moto G Stylus 5G. When comparing the 2023 versus the 2024, camera-wise, it wins that competition without a doubt. So overall, I am really happy with what this camera offers, and I'm also happy with what Motorola was able to do with this device in the camera department. I think they did its job, and it's definitely heading in the right direction. So I'm really excited to kind of see what the future holds as far as this lineup of phones. Hopefully they keep this momentum going and making these camera systems better each and every year. So with that being said, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments below, and I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you all so much for watching.